All right, so this video is gonna be a little different from what I usually do. I'm gonna be breaking up apart from my usual format. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Maybe it doesn't have enough engagement. Who knows? But there's not gonna be tutorials here, no coding breakdowns, none of that. Okay, we are in an AI era now, and if you're looking for code, you could ask ChatGPT and get something pretty decent. This video isn't about that. It's about inspiration. Maybe I'll push you to create your own virtual world, something like this. Or maybe something completely different and probably better. And I think this idea goes back further for me than I ever realized. When I was around 5, I went to a science fair with my dad, and it was there that I experienced virtual reality for the first time. I remember playing this game, Heretic. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's kind of like Doom, right? The graphics were primitive at that time, but stepping into that virtual space, it just felt like I was in another reality entirely. And that moment really stuck with me. It wasn't just about the game, It was about the idea of creating alternative realities, spaces where anything is possible, kind of like Disney, right? Sorry. And that's what this project is for me. It's not just about coding. It's about building that space that is yours and it feels alive and makes you wonder, what if I could be, what if I could be somewhere completely different? Anyways, let me just show you some of the most interesting parts of this world. So let's dive in, right? Scroll down. There you go. So why Titan, right? It started as a challenge, not just to build something beautiful, but to create a space that felt vast, lonely, and in a way also very mysterious. It was a place you could get lost in. And Titan is a moon from Saturn, but it is not just some random moon. It's actually one of the largest of Saturn, yes, but it's also one of the most Earth-like bodies in the solar system, but completely alien in every way, there are methane lakes, dense skies, freezing temperatures. It's familiar yet totally different. That's Titan, if you're curious. And there's a link in that little signpost. If you click on Titan, it will take you to that resource. Right? But yeah, this whole project was about capturing that balance, making something that feels both known and unknown at the same time. So let's get down to business. Let's talk about the 3D assets, right? So the signpost you see there that has the most voxel structure here, that little brown sign that looks like a little computer, right? It was developed with a software called Goxel. And Goxel, it was 100% developed by it. And so was the hovercraft. I developed the full thing from scratch, right? Also 100% developed with Goxel, even though it looks like a polyhedral. So was the whole mountain range you see there from afar, background, the methane lake, and even Saturn was developed 100% with Goxel, right? I developed them all from scratch, from the smallest, tiniest blobs or voxel systems that you can use. But yeah, so as I mentioned, Goxel is a voxel-based modeling software, right? If you're not familiar with voxels, you can just imagine 3-dimensional pixels, which are tiny cubes stacked together to make to make shapes, to create different 3-dimensional models. Now you might be thinking, well, like this hovercraft that you just developed, right? That you allegedly designed, it doesn't look like blocky chunky cubes, And that's true. That's because I use something called marching cubes, which is fortunately a feature inside Goxel. Again, and this feature, you can find it under the view toolbar in Goxel. You'll see it under the little eye icon of the software. I'll be placing the link to download for this software. And it's open source and multi-platform, so you could, download it even if you could use it if you have Windows, Mac, or even Linux. It actually works better in Linux. All right. But yeah, like I mentioned, you'll find that marching cubes feature under the view toolbar, and it transforms blocky models into smoother, low poly mesh forms like this hovercraft that I created, 100%, like this whole mountain range that was also entirely created with Goxel, and like Saturn, the planet, and the Metal Maker, like I mentioned, and yeah, so I'll be leaving a link under the video description for that one. Now, of course, creating the models was just a start. I also needed Titan to feel endless, right? This terrain here that you see that I'm just like drifting through, it's not hand sculpted. I used procedural generation for this, which means that the landscape stands forever. I'm going very fast, hyperspeed quote unquote here, and it just like keeps going. I mean, you can see the purplish haze at the horizon. But yeah, it's a procedural generation. It just means this landscape stands forever. It was built by algorithms instead of by manual design, right? And now you can see, of course, the texture, the floor was created using textures. What is textures? It's just like a PNG image that you download, and it just repeats indefinitely, right? So I'll also be leaving a link under the video description on a popular texture site that you can use, and it will just give you a bunch of different textures like this one you see here, right, for the floor, and for free completely. Okay. But yeah, but it does feel it does feel like this whole world feels truly massive, right? Like you're wandering across an alien moon without limits. As for the whole complete three-dimensional space, even like the simulation box, and I don't know where the simulation box is right now because I went so far. It's probably like all the way here. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, all that is developed with Three.js. And Three.js is a JavaScript library, okay? And this JavaScript library, my whole environment was NPM, so I developed it. I used to develop things through Webpack, but basically I run NPM, which it helps for creating the whole environment. And npm run dev, npm run build, right? And of course I use Three.js for the three-dimensional modeling as a whole, right? And it just allows all these objects, the floor, including the movement, all to exist in a very cohesive, dynamic environment. And it's about creating that and making sure that this world feels live, even though it's entirely artificial. So that's what it's for. And of course, finding the perfect platform for that is, like I mentioned, this Three.js library. Now, in terms of creating immersion, right? It isn't just about graphics; it's also about feeling. And like take the lakes, for instance, in Titan. They're made of methane, but instead of making them reflective or animated, I just left them still, heavy and dense, like to match the eerie silence of the world around you. And the sky you see here, that is the Saturn sky, where the Saturn sky comes in, which is a separate and isolated component that we later add to the environment component scene, right? So there's a very isolated Saturn sky component there, which includes the three-dimensional model of Saturn. And it just looks very large in the sky, as you can see. Dominates your field of view, just like you would be on the real Titan. And this dense haze that you see on the horizon, this purplish haze, it's also a component, but that was added directly to the environment component. Again, I wanted to create an atmosphere. It just feels oppressive, isolating, and just a little unsettling in a way. That's why we made it. But yeah, so all these details work together to create a feeling of being somewhere completely different. If you're curious about this text, it's clickable, and you can program clickable text now on Three.js through one of the newest models that I believe that they launched like a year ago or 2 years ago. That is just like a text. It's called text, and it's a part of Three.js now. Okay, and of course this is actually a more modern version of Three.js that I'm using. I'm using Fiverr, and I think Fiverr is more. You may correct me if I'm wrong, right? But it just helps you with the controls. It's much easier, like to tie controls, for instance, like these movement controls that you see here, right? And the controls, so they're kind of like one of the most complex things that there are on three-dimensional rendering or three-dimensional developing this type of games or interactive experiences are under controls. The gravity, the constraints, even like, touching, being able to recognize that this is an object that you cannot go through. Those are the most complicated things. The controls, I guess, the way that you can think about it is each of these models is tied to a Three.js object. And that's what you do. You basically have something in Three.js that is called a GLTF loader. So after I created my models, I downloaded them, I exported them as GLTF files. If you're interested in like developing, showing me just in action, develop an object, three-dimensional object like this one from scratch, just let me know in the comments. Using Goxel, of course, right? But basically the way you do it is you just load the three-dimensional file as GLTF in Three.js, and then you declare it as a Three.js object on the web, right, on the program. After you've done that, then the Three.js object will have properties of position and rotation. So we will have position in X, Y, theta, and rotation as well on those vectors. So what you can do is then you can, for instance, declare this hovercraft dot position dot x and be tied to increments of +1 or plus 10. I don't know, for every time you touch a key in the keyboard, as a conditional type of argument. So you can do that. It just makes things all very, very easy in that way, if you think about it in that sense, right? Besides those controls, if you are in a mobile device, you'll find also that you obviously don't have keys on touch devices, right? So for that, I created a system which automatically detects if you have a touch device, and if you do, it gives you this display, these joysticks, right? You can use to move the hovercraft, you can use to go forward, to lift up, down, strafe right, strafe left, oops. And you can even also use hyperspeed. In the case of a keyboard, it's holding shift while holding shift. In this case, it's just a slider. You activate it, and then you can just travel at hyperspeed, man. Okay. And there's even a visual joystick as well. So all of these joysticks, they are NPM components that I actually published very recently. I published a package. It's called NPM Boot. So it's a funny name, right? But yeah, you can use that package to just add joysticks to your games or to your virtual worlds. And the thing about that is that, so what I wanted to let you know is that if you do that, right, you must declare the joysticks, all these controls, external to the Three.js environment. So everything has to be separated in components, right? But you just have to declare all these outside of that. Otherwise, you'll get errors. Okay. But that's about it when it comes to controls, right? They are readily available. I will be providing the package also as in link to the video description for React Loop, which is basically gives you these controls. Allows you to, just through an npm install of React Loop. All right. And yeah, so what else? I guess that's it. I don't want to make this video too long. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, just let me know. And maybe no promises, I'll make a follow-up video, or maybe your questions are answered by other viewers. But yeah, I'm always open to feedback, or if you are interested in seeing something, like maybe a very quick overview of how I used Goxel to create these structures or create a similar one, and just let me know. And I'll consider if I can make a video like that. All right. So wrap up. That's on Titan. I think this is probably what I
what I called it, untitled.vercel.app. And it's a personal challenge, really. It was a personal challenge that turned into something bigger. I developed this in a weekend. It's a virtual space for exploration and curiosity. Now, if this sparked any ideas for you, or if you've got any questions, like I said, drop them off in the comments. Maybe I'll answer them there, or maybe I'll make a follow-up video. No promises, though. All right. If you enjoyed this journey, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see next. That's basically one of the most vital and important things that I would rescue from you guys. Okay, I'm always interested in what you're interested about, obviously. But yeah, until next time, keep exploring, and maybe start building something completely of your own. All right, goodbye. Thanks.